Now look at how you treat me. Let me tell you something, and I want you to hold on to this. Your life is not a debt to be paid to anyone, not even your own children, not even your siblings, not even your oldest friends. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe them your health, and you certainly don't owe them the energy you barely have left just so they can feel powerful or in control or morally superior. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed in emotional currency. The older you get, the more you realize time is your most sacred currency. And guilt trippers are professional time thieves. They will pull you into conversations that leave you drained, into obligations that leave you exhausted, and into relationships that leave you questioning your own worth. You might hear things like, if you really loved me, you'd do this. But listen, love is not proven through exhaustion. Love is not measured by how much of yourself you abandon. You don't prove love by shrinking. You prove love by living in truth. And here's what's even more dangerous. Guilt trippers often train you to question your own reality. You start wondering, am I the one being selfish? Am I really not doing enough? That's how they win. It's how they keep you tied to their emotional leash. But freedom begins when you recognize that emotional manipulation is a form of control, and in old age, you don't have time to be controlled. You need space to heal, to breathe, to reflect, to live. You've spent decades being there for others, raising children, supporting families, showing up at work, giving everything you had. Now the time has come to reclaim what's left of your energy for you. Not to be cold, not to be bitter, but to be free. I know this might sound harsh to some, especially in cultures where family is everything. I'm not saying cut people off just because they're difficult. I'm saying protect yourself from people who use guilt as a leash. That's different. That's not love. That's control wrapped in familiarity. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to disappoint the expectations that were never healthy to begin with. And here's the truth a lot of people are afraid to admit. Just because someone is your family doesn't mean they're healthy for your spirit. Let me say that again. Just because someone is your family doesn't mean they're healthy for your spirit. In this season of life, you're not responsible for fixing everyone. You're not responsible for holding the family together at the cost of your mental and emotional health. You're not here to play referee, therapist, or emotional punching bag. You're here to live, finally, truly, and fully. You don't need to explain your boundaries to people who are never going to respect them anyway. You don't need to justify your peace. You just need to claim it. You've earned it. Through the storms, through the heartbreaks, through the years you stayed silent when you should have spoken, through the nights you gave when you had nothing left, you have earned this peace with your life. Don't trade it for guilt. If someone truly loves you, they will want your peace more than they want your compliance. Real love doesn't demand. It respects. It honors. It creates space. It doesn't guilt you into silence or submission. So as you move forward in life, be mindful of the guilt trippers. They might come with warm smiles and soft words, but if your soul feels heavier after they leave, pay attention to that. Your spirit knows what it's being pulled into. And if you ever need a reminder that it's okay to say no, here it is. Saying no to them is saying yes to you. That's a trade worth making, every single time. Now let's talk about another type of person you need to start backing away from. The constant complainers, the never satisfied critics, the ones I like to call energy vampires. You know who I'm talking about. These are the people who could win the lottery and still find something to complain about. The sun could be shining and they'll still tell you it's too bright. You could be having a peaceful day and they'll show up with a cloud over their head and try to drag you under it with them. In your later years, energy becomes sacred, and you don't have the same reserves you once had. You've got to be selective about where you spend it and who you spend it on. But energy vampires, they don't care about that. They will talk your ear off for hours about everything that's wrong in their life, never once asking how you're doing, never once checking in on your heart. And what's worse, they don't even want solutions. They just want company in their misery. They drain your spirit, not with loud arguments, but with the quiet, steady drip of negativity. It's constant, it's subtle, and it's exhausting. One phone call, one visit, one conversation, and suddenly your entire day feels heavier. You feel irritated, anxious, unsettled, and you don't even know why. That's how it works. They offload their emotional weight onto you and then walk away feeling better while you're left carrying bags you didn't pack. And I want to say this plainly. You were not put on this earth to be someone's emotional landfill. You were not created to absorb everyone's darkness at the expense of your own light. That is not your job, especially not now. I know some of these people might be close to you, maybe even people you've known for decades. Maybe it's a sibling, a lifelong friend, a neighbor, or even one of your own children. And that makes it harder. But listen closely. Just because someone is in your life story doesn't mean they get to write your ending. If they can't bring peace into your space, if all they do is drain, complain, and criticize, then it is absolutely okay, necessary even, to create space, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, out of a deep understanding that your emotional well-being matters, and you no longer have the time or desire to pour yourself out for people who only take. You ever notice how being around certain people makes you feel smaller? How after talking to them, your mood shifts, your hope shrinks, and suddenly you start doubting things you felt clear about just moments ago? That's the quiet erosion of your peace happening in real time. That's the cost of constant negativity, and trust me, it adds up over time. There are people who have gotten so used to complaining they don't even realize they're doing it anymore. Their whole identity is built around what's wrong, what's missing, who's to blame. And if you spend enough time with them, they'll start convincing you to see life that way too. That's the real danger. They don't just drain you, they reshape you. They mold your perspective with their bitterness. And if you're not careful, you'll start picking up that weight without even knowing it. You deserve to be around people who lift you, who challenge you in love, who speak life, not just loss, who remind you that even though the world is messy, there's still so much beauty in it. And if you don't have that in your circle, then maybe it's time to tighten the circle. Let me tell you something most people won't. Peace is louder than noise. Peace doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to prove itself. But when it's gone, you feel it in your body, in your spirit, in your mind. Protecting your peace means protecting your energy. And protecting your energy means stepping back from people who treat your presence like a dumping ground for their dysfunction. You are not obligated to answer every call. You are not obligated to listen to every complaint. You are not required to carry what they refuse to release. It is not unkind to protect your space. It is not rude to say, I love you, but I can't carry this with you today. That is wisdom, that is maturity, that is self-preservation. There comes a point in life where you have to stop apologizing for choosing peace. You have to stop explaining why you'd rather sit in silence than in someone's chaos. You have to stop feeling guilty for not engaging in endless cycles of criticism and complaints, because the truth is, you've outgrown that noise. And that's something to be proud of. You entering a time in life where your focus should be on healing, reflecting, and enjoying the moments you have left, not spending them entangled in someone else's drama or misery. You've carried enough. You've sacrificed enough. And now your energy must be guarded like treasure. So when the constant complainers come knocking, when the critics try to pull you back into their swirl of negativity, remember this. Now let me take you into something a little more personal, because this one stings a little deeper. It's about the people who only show up when they need something. The users. The ones who treat your relationship like a convenience store. They drop in when they're low, grab what they need, and disappear the second they've filled up. And I want to be clear. This isn't about being unwilling to help people. This is about recognizing when help has become a one-way street, when love has become a transaction, when your presence only matters when you're useful. You've seen it before. Maybe it's someone who calls only when their car breaks down or when rent's due. Maybe it's someone who pops back into your life just long enough to borrow money, borrow time, or borrow peace, and then fades out again without even a thank you, let alone a how are you. And you try to give them the benefit of the doubt because that's who you are. You've got a heart that wants to see the best in people. You remember who they used to be. You hope one day they'll finally show up just to be with you, not because they need something from you. But here's what life will teach you if you're paying attention. Some people never show up unless there's something in it for them. And that kind of relationship, no matter how long it's lasted or how deep the history runs, is not love, it's dependence, it's convenience, and it will leave you emotionally bankrupt if you don't learn how to say no. One of the toughest lessons in old age is realizing that being needed is not the same as being loved. Let me say that again. Being needed is not the same as being loved. Some folks only keep you around because you're easy, because you don't say no, because they know your heart is big and your defenses are soft, and every time they come around, they pull a little more from you. Not just money or time, no. They take something more valuable. They take your presence, your peace, your patience, and leave you emptier than when they arrive. And don't they always have a good story too? A reason, an excuse, a promise that this time is different, and for a moment you want to believe it. You want to believe that they've changed, that maybe, just maybe, they're here because they care, not because they're desperate. But then it happens again. You give, they take. And as soon as their problem is solved, they're gone. What's dangerous is how easily this kind of relationship can wear you down over time. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion, a steady draining. You start feeling guilty for not being available. You start questioning yourself when you set boundaries. You wonder if maybe you're the one being too harsh, but deep down you know the truth. You're being used, and it hurts. There's a kind of silence that settles in after someone's gotten what they wanted from you. A silence that reminds you they weren't there for you. They were there for what you could give, and if you listen closely, that silence will teach you something. You deserve more than being someone's backup plan. You deserve more than being someone's emotional ATM. You deserve people who pour back into you, not just when it's convenient for them, but consistently, with presence, with love, with truth. And I know it's hard to let go of people you've poured into for years. It's hard to say no to someone you once held in your arms or shared meals with or prayed for late into the night. But you've got to ask yourself, what is this relationship costing me? Not just financially, emotionally, spiritually. Am I being left drained? Am I being respected? Am I being seen or just used? And don't be surprised when these same people call you selfish the moment you stop serving their needs. That's their tactic. That's how they keep the cycle going. Because as long as they can guilt you, they can use you. But the moment you choose peace over performance, the moment you stop being available on demand, that's when they show you who they really are. And when that moment comes, let it happen. Let them walk. Let them be angry. Let them twist the story if they need to. But you stay rooted. Because deep down, you know the truth. You were not made to be used. You were made to be loved. In this season of life, you don't need people who keep score. You don't need people who only remember you when they're in a crisis. You need people who remember you in joy, in stillness, in ordinary days. People who are around not for what you offer, but for who you are. You've given enough in your lifetime. Now it's time to receive not just respect, but real mutual care. And that starts by refusing to be anyone's emotional vending machine. So when they come knocking, only when they're in need, when they show up with a hand out but never a hand to hold, remember this. If their love disappears when your resources run out, it was never love to begin with. Now let's talk about a group of people that can be the hardest to recognize at first, but once you do, everything starts to make sense. The controllers. These are the ones who, no matter how old you get, still treat you like you don't know what's best for yourself. They don't yell. They don't always demand. Sometimes they even sound like they're helping. But underneath all that concern, what they really want is control. And I want you to hear this loud and clear. You do not need to be managed. You need to be respected. It's one of the most subtle forms of emotional suffocation when someone constantly questions your decisions, undermines your judgment, or tries to run your life under the disguise of, I'm just trying to help. But what they're really doing is robbing you of your dignity, your voice, your freedom. And in this stage of life, you've earned all three. Controllers come in different forms. Some are obvious. They're loud, forceful, always trying to dictate how you should think, feel, or act. But others are quieter. They try to make every choice for you, not because they believe in your weakness, but because they fear your independence. Because your independence threatens their sense of control. And so they'll give you advice you never asked for, opinions you didn't need, and pressure you in ways that make you second-guess what you already knew in your gut. You know the kind. You say you want to travel somewhere, and they say, that's not safe at your age. You say you're thinking of downsizing your home, and they say, you're not thinking clearly. You want to give something away, and suddenly they're in your ear saying, don't do that. What if you need it? It's constant low-level doubt disguised as care. But it's not care, it's control. And that control can leave you feeling like a child in your own life. Let me tell you something. Age doesn't erase your ability to make choices. If anything, it refines it. You've lived through wars, recessions, losses, births, heartbreak, healing, and all the ordinary miracles in between. You've earned the right to say, I know what I want, and I trust myself to choose it. Anyone who tries to silence that is not helping you. They're handling you. And you are not someone who needs to be handled. What makes this even more painful is that sometimes the controllers are the people who love you the most. A child who thinks they're protecting you. A spouse who's grown fearful of change. A friend who thinks they know you better than you know yourself. And because their voice is familiar, you start to listen. You start to doubt. And little by little, your life becomes smaller. Not because you wanted less, but because someone else decided you couldn't handle more. But here's what I believe with every fiber of my being. It is not your job to live a life that makes other people comfortable. It is your job to live a life that feels right in your own spirit. And if that means disappointing the ones who think they know better, then so be it. Your truth is not up for debate. Your freedom is not something you have to earn again and again. You already paid for it with years of sacrifice, experience, and wisdom. And don't let anyone confuse your need for support with a need for supervision. Yes, we all need help sometimes. That's human. But needing help doesn't mean you hand over the keys to your entire life. It means you invite someone in as a partner, not a warden. Controllers will often act offended when you push back. They'll say things like, "I'm just trying to look out for you." But there's a difference between looking out for someone and looking to control them. One is love, the other is fear. And you've lived too much life to let someone else's fear dictate your steps. You deserve to be surrounded by people who trust your voice, who celebrate your choices, who believe in your capacity to lead your own life. Because let's be honest, if they haven't trusted you by now, what more do you need to prove? You don't need anyone to co-sign your life anymore. You just need people who will walk alongside you, not over you. And I know for some of you this means having hard conversations. It means saying, "I love you, but I'm going to make this decision on my own." It means letting go of the need to be understood and choosing instead to be respected. That takes courage, but it's the kind of courage that sets you free. So if someone in your life is trying to put you in a box, if they're trying to parent you when you need a partner, if they're making you feel like your choices are foolish or your dreams are out of reach, stand tall, because this life is still yours to live. There's one more kind of person you must be mindful of in this season of life. The ones who refuse to grow. The ones who are stuck in the past, who live in cycles of bitterness, blame, and immaturity, no matter how old they get. You know the type. They wear their age on their face, but not in their spirit. They've learned how to survive, but not how to evolve. And when you're around them, it's like being pulled backward. Their world is small, their thinking is fixed, and their hearts are closed. And if you're not careful, they'll trap you in that same place. These are the folks who gossip about everything but never reflect on anything. The ones who love to talk about what everybody else is doing wrong but never stop to ask what they themselves need to change. The ones who act like they've got all the answers, but deep down they're just scared of transformation. And let me tell you something, growth doesn't stop just because your hair turns gray. In fact, spiritual growth becomes even more important the older you get. Because in this chapter of life, you're not just looking back, you're preparing for something deeper, for peace, for clarity, for legacy. But you can't walk into that kind of freedom if you're still surrounded by people who refuse to evolve. People who still fight over petty things. People who are still angry over events from 20 years ago. People who are still holding on to offenses like they're medals of honor, when really, they're just anchors. If you let them, they'll keep pulling you into conversations that no longer serve your spirit, arguments that have no purpose, mindsets that lead nowhere. And the truth is, it's not your job to carry them forward if they've chosen to stand still. I know that might sound harsh, but listen. Your soul wasn't meant to be trapped in someone else's emotional immaturity. Just because you share history with someone doesn't mean you owe them your future. There are people who will look at you and say, "You've changed." And you know what? That's the best compliment you could receive. Because if you're not changing, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're slowly dying, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. But people who are stuck don't want to see you evolve. Your growth threatens their comfort. Your peace exposes their unrest. Your healing reminds them of the work they've avoided for years. Sometimes the hardest people to walk away from are the ones you've known the longest, not because they're healthy for you, but because they've become familiar. They've become routine. But familiarity is not a reason to stay stuck. You can love someone from a distance. You can honor the history without carrying the weight of it. I've seen it time and time again. Elders who were wise in age but stagnant in spirit, full of stories but empty of insight. They can tell you what happened but not what it meant. They can list their regrets but not what they learned. That's not wisdom. That's just memory. And memory without meaning keeps you in a loop. And I know you didn't come this far just to spin in circles. You came this far to find peace, to find rest, to pass on more than just tales. You came to pass on truth. But you cannot do that while dragging the weight of people who refuse to reflect, refuse to heal, refuse to let go. Their chaos becomes your burden. Their pain becomes your prison. And slowly you'll find yourself watering dead plants, waiting for change that was never going to come. Let me say something difficult but necessary. Some people are not interested in becoming better. They are only interested in being right. And you will waste the best of your final years trying to convince them of something their heart is not ready to receive. That's not your assignment. Your job is not to carry grown adults through emotional growth they're not willing to do. Your job is to walk in peace, to keep growing, and to surround yourself with people who are doing the same. Find people who are curious, not just opinionated, people who are open, not just loud, people who are seeking healing, not rehearsing pain. And when you do, you'll notice something shift. You'll start to feel light again, clear, alive, because growth creates space. But being around people who refuse to grow, that suffocates your spirit. You deserve relationships that feel like fresh air, not heavy fog. People who challenge you in love, not chain you in fear. And if that means shrinking your circle, so be it. Because a small circle full of truth and growth is better than a big one full of noise and numbness. So when you find yourself around people who haven't moved an inch in spirit or in heart, people still clinging to bitterness, still blaming the world, still recycling the same conversations from decades ago, remember this: there's one more kind of person you must learn to distance yourself from, especially in this sacred season of your life, and that's the ones who mock faith, the ones who belittle the very thing that's carried you through the storms, the ones who roll their eyes when you speak about God, who dismiss your convictions like they're nothing more than fairy tales. And I'm not just talking about people who believe differently. No, I'm talking about people who actively disrespect your belief. People who take joy in tearing down what you've built your soul on. Faith is not weakness, it's strength. It's the reason you're still standing. It's the reason you made it through pain that should have broken you. Faith is what held you when people didn't. Faith is what whispered, "Keep going," when everything around you was falling apart. And anyone who laughs at that, anyone who treats that as foolishness, is not someone you need in your space, especially now. You see, when we reach this stage of life, the questions get deeper, the reflections get heavier. You start thinking about eternity, about purpose, about what really matters beyond the surface. You're not just counting years anymore, you're measuring meaning. And in that space, you need people who speak life, not mockery. People who may not walk your exact path, but who at the very least respect it. But some people are so rooted in cynicism that they cannot help but scoff at things they don't understand. They'll make you feel silly for praying. They'll make you feel small for believing in something greater. They'll mock the very thing that's been your anchor. And if you let them close, their doubt will start to seep into your spirit, not because they're right, but because their voice is loud and constant. Don't you let it happen. Don't you let their sarcasm shrink your faith. Don't you let their jokes plant seeds of shame in your soul, because here's the truth. Faith is not fragile. It's fire. It's what's kept you alive. It's what's held your family together. It's what's healed your heart time and time again. Faith doesn't make you naive. It makes you grounded. It makes you wise. And anyone who can't see that isn't looking with the right eyes. Some of these people might even be close to you, a friend you've known for decades, a family member who grew cold over the years, maybe even one of your own children who now thinks they're too smart to believe in what they call old stories. And you love them. You always will. But just because you love someone doesn't mean you have to let them disrespect what matters most to you. This isn't about arguing. This isn't about trying to convert anyone. This is about protecting the soil of your soul. Because whatever peace you have in your spirit right now, you fought for that. You bled for that. You cried for that. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you believe or who you pray to or what gives you hope in the dark. You know what's real. You know what you've been through. You felt the hand of God carry you when nothing else could. You've heard His voice in the quiet, seen His grace in the moments when you least deserved it. And I don't care how educated, accomplished, or enlightened someone claims to be, if they haven't walked through your valley, they don't get to laugh at your light. Sometimes you have to love people from a distance for the sake of your soul. You can still pray for them. You can still wish them well. But you do not have to let them poison your peace or shake your foundation with their doubt. That is not love. That is spiritual warfare disguised as casual conversation. And let me tell you something else. It's not just about what they say out loud. It's the energy they bring. The smirks, the rolling eyes, the passive-aggressive comments that chip away at your peace, little by little. You deserve better than that. You deserve people who honor your walk, even if they don't share it. People who sit with you in your truth, not poke holes in it for sport. Because at the end of the day, we are all going to leave this place, every single one of us. And when that time comes, what will matter isn't how many opinions we debated, but how much peace we carried, how well we loved, how deeply we believed. And I want you to have peace when you lay your head down at night, not because life is perfect, but because your soul is anchored, because you didn't let mockery steal your reverence, because you held on to your faith even when others laughed at it. So when the ones who mock what you believe come around, whether they do it with sarcasm or silence, remember this. You don't need agreement from others to stay close to God. You just need the courage to guard your faith like the treasure it is.
Worrying about who's ahead or behind. Stop seeking approval from people who don't even know your struggles. Run your own race. Keep your eyes on your own path. Water your own garden. And watch how your life begins to grow. Because when you focus on yourself, when you give your best every day, when you stop looking sideways and start looking forward, nothing can stop you. You will rise higher, you will achieve more, and you will walk in the purpose that was designed just for you. Stay focused, stay faithful, and watch how your life changes. True growth begins not when we look around, but when we look within. Too often, people search for answers in the world outside, measuring themselves against others, seeking validation and chasing approval. But the real transformation happens in quiet moments of self-reflection, when we pause, when we ask ourselves the tough questions, when we take an honest look at who we are and where we are going. It's easy to get caught up in distractions, to focus on what others have achieved, to compare timelines and wonder why we aren't further ahead. But the truth is, comparison will never bring clarity. The only way to truly move forward is by understanding yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your purpose. Instead of looking at someone else's journey, ask yourself, am I better than I was yesterday? Am I working towards something meaningful? Am I growing in character, discipline, and wisdom? Reflection isn't about self-criticism. It's about awareness. When you take time to understand yourself, you begin to see what needs to change. You recognize patterns that have been holding you back. You identify areas where you need to grow. And most importantly, you take ownership of your life. Because when you stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming people, and start taking responsibility, that's when everything changes. The world will always have opinions, people will always have something to say, but their voices don't define you. What matters is what you believe about yourself, what you choose to focus on, and how you choose to grow. When you make self-reflection a daily habit, when you are willing to learn, to adjust, to improve, nothing can stop you. Because a person who knows themselves, who understands their purpose, who is committed to their own growth, is truly honest. Nothing steals happiness faster than the habit of comparison. The moment you start measuring your life against someone else's, you shift your focus from gratitude to lack, from contentment to dissatisfaction. Instead of seeing what you have, you only see what you don't. Instead of appreciating your own progress, you begin to feel like you're falling behind. Comparison is a never-ending trap. There will always be someone who seems more successful, more talented, more fortunate. There will always be another level to reach, another goal to chase, and if you live your life constantly looking at others, you will never truly appreciate where you are. You'll spend your days feeling inadequate, questioning your worth, and missing the blessings that are already in front of you. The truth is, no two journeys are the same. You don't know the struggles someone else has faced. You don't see the sacrifices they've made, the battles they've fought, or the burdens they carry. What you see is only a glimpse, a highlight, a moment in time. And when you compare yourself to that, you are measuring yourself against an illusion. Happiness comes not from being ahead of someone else, but from being at peace with where you are. When you stop looking sideways and start focusing on your own growth, your own path, your own purpose, joy follows. Because real fulfillment isn't found in competition, but in self-acceptance. And when you embrace your own journey, when you trust your own process, when you celebrate your own progress, there is nothing to steal your joy. No two people walk the exact same path in life. Every person has their own set of challenges, opportunities, setbacks, and breakthroughs. Yet too often, people fall into the trap of thinking they should be where someone else is, that their progress isn't fast enough, or that their story should look like someone else's. But the truth is, your journey was never meant to be a duplicate of anyone else's. It was designed specifically for you. What works for one person may not work for another. The timing that was right for someone else may not be right for you. The struggles you face might be preparing you for something greater, something you can't yet see. Instead of wishing your path looked different, embrace it. Every experience, both good and bad, is shaping you, teaching you, and preparing you for what's ahead. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't happen as quickly as you'd like, or when you feel like others are passing you by. But success isn't a race, and life isn't about who gets there first. The most important thing is that you stay true to your own path, that you trust the process, and that you keep moving forward. Growth happens in stages. Breakthroughs come at the right time, and when you stop trying to fit into someone else's timeline and start embracing your own, you begin to see that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to follow someone else's script. Your journey is your own, and when you walk it with confidence, faith, and persistence, you'll realize that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't come from wishful thinking or waiting for the right moment. It comes from focus, deliberate, disciplined attention to what truly matters. The reason so many people struggle to grow is not because they lack potential, but because they allow distractions to pull them away from their purpose. They spend more time watching others, chasing temporary pleasures, and entertaining negativity than investing in themselves. If you want to grow, you must guard your focus. You can't build something meaningful while constantly looking around at what everyone else is doing. You can't develop your skills, strengthen your mindset, or reach your goals if your attention is scattered. The greatest achievements come from those who learn to tune out the noise and concentrate on their own path. There will always be temptations, things that seem urgent but are not important, things that promise quick rewards but lead nowhere. And if you're not careful, your time and energy will be spent on things that don't contribute to your growth. That's why focus is so powerful. When you lock in on your goals, when you commit to improving every day, when you discipline yourself to keep moving forward no matter the obstacles, growth is inevitable. Nothing great is built overnight, and nothing lasting is built without effort. But when you make a decision to focus on your own progress, to drown out the distractions, and to give your best every single day, you'll begin to see change. Small steps turn into big results. Consistent effort turns into transformation. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize that focus was the key to becoming everything you were meant to be. Every person has the same 24 hours in a day, but how those hours are spent determines the difference between success and stagnation. The greatest obstacle to growth is not a lack of ability, but a lack of discipline. Distractions are everywhere: social media, entertainment, other people's opinions, temporary pleasures that offer nothing in return. It's easy to fall into the habit of giving time and energy to things that don't move you forward. But discipline is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It means committing to your goals even when the excitement wears off. It means choosing long-term success over short-term gratification. While distractions pull you away from your purpose, discipline keeps you locked in. While distractions waste your potential, discipline develops it. The person who masters discipline masters their future. The world will always offer an easy way out, an excuse to delay, a reason to quit, but growth requires consistency. It requires showing up every day, even when progress feels slow. The more disciplined you are with your time, your habits, and your mindset, the faster you move toward your goals. Every great achievement, every transformation, every success story is built on the foundation of discipline. At the end of the day, the choice is simple. Waste time on things that don't matter, or invest in things that do. One path leads to regret, the other to fulfillment. The question is, which one will you choose? Jealousy drains energy that could be used to build your own success. It shifts your focus from growth to resentment, from gratitude to dissatisfaction. Instead of being inspired by someone else's achievements, jealousy makes you feel as if their success takes something away from you. But the truth is, no one else's blessings can block what's meant for you. Wasting time envying others only delays your own progress. When you allow jealousy to take root, it clouds your vision. You stop seeing your own potential, your own opportunities, your own strengths. You become so consumed with what someone else has that you forget to nurture what's already in your hands. Instead of comparing, use that energy to improve. Instead of envying, use that motivation to work harder. Someone else's success is not your failure. It's proof of what's possible. The reality is, life is not a competition. There is enough opportunity, enough success, and enough abundance for everyone willing to put in the effort. The only person you should compete with is the person you were yesterday. Every minute spent dwelling on what someone else has is a minute lost that could have been used to build your own future. Jealousy blinds, but focus empowers. When you shift your attention back to your own path, your own growth, and your own journey, you'll realize that you never needed to compare in the first place. Your time is better spent improving, learning, and becoming the best version of yourself. Let go of jealousy and watch how much faster you move forward. Imagine a farmer who spends all his time staring at his neighbor's field, worrying about how fast their crops are growing, how green their grass is, or how much rain they're getting. Meanwhile, his own land sits neglected, his soil dries up, his plants wither, and his harvest never comes. This is what happens when you focus on other people's lives instead of tending to your own. Growth requires attention, and whatever you focus on will flourish. If you constantly compare your progress to others, you rob yourself of the energy needed to build something meaningful. Instead of resenting someone else's success, use that time to water your own dreams. Instead of worrying about how someone else is living, focus on improving your own life. No one else's journey is your responsibility. Yours is. Success doesn't come from watching what others are doing. It comes from consistent effort, patience, and care. Your talents, your goals, your purpose, they need nurturing. The more time you invest in your own development, the more you'll grow. The moment you stop looking outward and start looking inward, you'll see results. Comparison is a distraction, resentment is a distraction, but when you stay focused on your own path, when you put in the work where it truly matters, you'll reap the rewards. Your garden will flourish, not because you watched someone else's grow, but because you took care of your own. Chasing popularity is like chasing the wind. It's always moving, never constant, and ultimately empty. Too many people spend their lives seeking approval, trying to fit in and doing what they think will gain them the most attention. But attention fades, and the applause of others is never enough to fill the void of living without true purpose. Purpose is what gives life meaning. It's the reason you wake up with passion, the force that keeps you going when things get tough. Popularity is built on the opinions of others. But purpose is built on something deeper, on conviction, on values, on the impact you were meant to make. When you live for purpose, you don't need validation because your fulfillment comes from within. The world will always try to pull you in different directions, telling you to be this, to do that, to follow the crowd. But what good is it to gain the approval of many if you lose yourself in the process? True success isn't measured by how many people know your name, but by how many lives you've touched, by how much you've grown, and by how well you've stayed true to who you are. When you live for purpose, you build something lasting. You focus on what truly matters, not on temporary recognition. And in the end, those who choose purpose over popularity are the ones who leave a legacy, not because they were known by many, but because they made a difference where it truly counted. Real peace isn't found in achievements, possessions, or the approval of others. It comes from within. Too many people spend their lives searching for happiness in external things, believing that success, relationships, or recognition will finally bring them contentment. But no amount of money, fame, or validation can give lasting peace if you don't first have it within yourself. Peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the ability to remain steady in the middle of them. Life will always bring challenges, disappointments, and unexpected turns. If your peace depends on circumstances, it will always be fragile, easily shaken by setbacks, criticism, or comparison. But when peace comes from within, no outside force can take it away. It starts with knowing who you are and what truly matters. When you stop seeking fulfillment in things that don't last and start grounding yourself in purpose, faith, and gratitude, you begin to cultivate a peace that remains, even when everything around you is uncertain. You no longer need to chase approval, compete with others, or constantly seek more to feel enough. True peace is a decision. It's choosing to be content with where you are while working toward where you want to be. It's refusing to let the noise of the world drown out your inner confidence. And when you find that peace within yourself, you become unshakable, free from the pressures of comparison, fear, and doubt, fully present in the life you are meant to live. Distractions are everywhere. Opinions, doubts, temptations, and the endless noise of the world trying to pull you away from your purpose. But the ones who rise, the ones who achieve great things, are the ones who refuse to be swayed. They are so focused on their vision, so locked in on their goals that nothing can stop them. When you have a clear purpose and an unshakable commitment to it, obstacles don't break you, they build you. Challenges become stepping stones, setbacks become lessons, and every moment of resistance only fuels your determination to push forward. Focus isn't just about avoiding distractions, it's about being so deeply committed to your growth that nothing else matters. There will always be reasons to quit, fear, doubt, comparison. But when your focus is strong, those things lose their power over you. You stop worrying about what others are doing, stop seeking approval, and stop making excuses. You develop tunnel vision, seeing only the path ahead, refusing to be pulled in different directions. When you reach this level of focus, progress becomes inevitable. You start showing up every day with purpose, discipline, and persistence. Your goals are no longer just dreams, they become reality. And before you know it, the things that once seemed impossible are now within your grasp. Because a focused mind is an unstoppable force, and when you commit to your path with everything you have, nothing and no one can stand in your way. At the end of the day, the only person who can shape your future is you. Not the opinions of others, not the distractions of the world, and not the setbacks you face. Your growth, your success, your peace It all starts with where you place your focus. When you stop looking at others and start looking within, when you commit to your own journey with discipline, purpose, and relentless determination, you become unstoppable. You were never meant to live in the shadows of comparison, jealousy, or distractions. You were meant to rise, to build, to grow into the person you were always destined to be. The moment you decide to lock in on your own path, to stop chasing approval and start chasing purpose, everything changes. No more wasting energy on things that don't matter. No more delaying your potential. No more playing small. The power is in your hands. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and never lose sight of the greatness within you. Because when you fully commit to your journey, when you block out the noise and embrace your own path, there is nothing that can stop you from becoming everything you were meant to be.